Hello everyone, this is Smaran. Today I'll show you what are for loops and while loops and why we need them. Let's first start with a problem. Okay. Let's say someone asks you to print the word hello or hi 10 times. How do you do it? You may think of writing the print function with hello passed 10 times. Like, I've already written it one time, so I need to write it 9 more times. Like this. Let's first run this. Well, we got the job done, but there's a problem in coding which doesn't allow us to do it. It's not the computer's problem, but it's our own problem. And that is that humans should not repeat the same task in coding over and over again. If there is something in the code that is repeating more than the required times that a human can do, then that means it has to be done by a computer. Now, you may think this is not much of a problem, but let's say someone asks you to, instead of printing 10, 100. Would you go about to print 100 statements? I don't think so. Which is why Python gave us this really neat keyword, for. The for loop is a kind of block that repeats whatever is inside that block over and over again. So how do you type this for loop? You first start with the keyword for by an I, and then an in, and then the range function, and inside that the barriers or value. I'll set 0, 10. That means it will get the values from 0 to 10. That is 0, 1, 2, 3, and so on. Next I'll hit enter after I put the colon, then put the print function followed by a hello. You see that? Just by using 2 lines and the special for loop function, you were able to do the same thing by what it took 10 lines earlier. But what's going on with this I in range brackets 0, 10? Let's first print the I. The I is something that you can print, yes. Look at that. It printed all the numbers from 0 to 9 inclusive. This is because I takes each number that range gives back. But in the range function, you see that we set 0, 10. But here we only see the ranges from 0 to 9. Where's 10? In Python, the range function has this format: inclusive, comma, exclusive. That means the first value you give will be the inclusive value, meaning it will print that out, and the second value that you give is exclusive. That means it will neglect that and only print all the way up to the number below it. There's also this neat thing, the third value you can set, and this tells the range function to skip count. In this case, I told it to skip count by 2s. You see that? This time it only printed out numbers that were divisible by 2, that is, are even numbers. This is from printing 0, and then instead of going 1 step to go to 1, it goes 2 steps to go to 2, and then 2 steps again to 4, 2 steps again to 6, and then finally 2 steps again to 8. So you can even tell the range function to skip count. Let's put it back to this. You see, we got our hellos again. Now, let's start with another case. What if you want something to repeat over and over, but don't know how many times it will repeat? Like in this case, we know how many times we should print hello. That is 10 times. But what if we don't know how many times it's going to repeat? For that, we use the while loop. What's a while loop? A while loop is really similar to a for loop, except that it uses the keyword while, of course, followed by a condition, just like the if statement. But in this time, it does not check once, it checks hundreds of times, and will stop checking only if the condition becomes false. So let's first start with something. Let's set integer to 0. And now let's add the condition while integer is less than or equal to 10, colon, enter, and then let's ask it to print something. I'll go with the hello again. Now let's run this. Uh-oh, we got a syntax error. It turns out that the error came from the for loop. Why? Because I commented this. Knowing that this will print hello again, I commented it. But the for loop will need something to run, because the computer treats this line after I commented it as a nothing. It doesn't know there's something. That's why if you want to neglect if statements, for loops, while loops, and all of that, you use the pass keyword. Now let's run it. I better stop it. Yes. Now what is it doing? It's printing hello, well, hundreds of times. As you can see, it already printed it too many times, and it will actually continue to print forever. But then I pass the keyboard quit, that is Control plus C. So why is it repeating forever? This is because we set integer to be 0, but it's checking while integer is less than or equal to 0, I mean 10. But because it's always 0, the condition will always be true, meaning the while loop will run forever. So how do we avoid this? Well, we have two ways. One is to put integer plus equal to 1, that is set integer to itself plus 1, or to use a for loop in the first place. While while loops can do what for loops do, whenever we know how many times we want to repeat something, it's best to use a for loop. Now let's say we actually wanted it to run forever. I'll just comment this again. How do we make it run forever? Well, instead of a condition, just keep true. So while true. True just means, well, yes, so it will run forever. And let's say instead of hello in the print function, let's put integer. Oh no, it's printing everything. So whenever we want something to run forever, we can just use the while true. But do we want anything to run forever? No, nothing can run forever. Eventually, the memory of this computer will run out if we let this to continue to run. And in the case of Java, it will actually return an error, because once it exceeds the integer limit, yes, there is a limit for integers, then it will say an error. So how do we exit this? We use the break keyword. And how do we use that? You just simply enter break. You see that? Well, the first thing I did was to just print out the integer, the current integer, which is 0, and then add 1. But because it's immediately followed by a break, it immediately stopped. So for loops are useful when you want to repeat something a known amount of times. And while loops are useful when you want to repeat something an unknown amount of times. That is, run and run and run until some kind of condition, when you can break it. So thank you for watching this video, and I hope you enjoyed it. Thank you.